Hello, my name is Bill Hunt from HREFLang Builder, and recently a number of people have mentioned in social media that there was not really anything that described the business challenge or the business reason or the problem where somebody might need to use an HREFLang and what are the benefits from using it. So this is one of a series of videos where we'll talk about this specific problem. This is an example of the type of email that I often get. And this was a conversation with an e-retailer that was saying they were losing about $3 million every month worth of cart abandonments due to people coming from organic search from non-local markets. So for example, they've got a site in Australia, they've got a site in New Zealand, they've got a site in Singapore, all are in English. And the problem they were having is one or more of those markets would do a search in Google in their local market. Let's just say in Singapore, they would end up on the Australian site because that's what Google was showing. They'd put a bunch of things in their basket, go to checkout, and only find out that either they couldn't buy because those items weren't available in Singapore, or the shipping or the price, because both Australia and Singapore use the dollar symbol, so to either market it looks like it's the same thing. So that's a big problem that HREFLang tries to correct, is that many people, when they do a Google search, they don't always realize that they're in the wrong place. So let's just do maybe one or two of these and see what we get. Let me drag a browser over. And one of the things I've been wanting to get is this bag from Michael Kors. So if I do a Hudson logo, I think it is a nylon, and I think it's a gabardine backpack. So I can't even spell, but Google corrects it for me. So either way, I come here and I can actually see this is the one I want. This is the picture of it. So it looks like if I wanted to click through the paid ad, it's $319. One other thing I notice is that, I just wanted to show that I'm actually coming from Australia, and I click through. So this was the #1 listing. Even though I misspelled it, it brings me to a page. Now remember, so I'm looking at it. Yep, this looks like the exact bag that I was looking for. I want to check the price. This looks like SRL 610. I thought it was 319, at least according to the paid ad. I might notice that this flag up here, this is SA, and it looks like the Saudi Arabia flag. So somehow, even though I searched in Google in Australia, I came to the Saudi Arabia site. So we'll talk about later in the video what that was. But let's just say, it's 610, so it's almost twice the price. I'll clearly notice this. My only option is to try to change the market, or I can come back, hit the back button. This is exactly what I want here. Rather than try researching again, I can click this. Now, if I click this, the user doesn't affect the user in any way, but Michael Kors is actually paying Google every time somebody clicks this. So this is the dilemma that an e-retailer will have, is if I click through this one, and let's say this was Australia, it would take me to the right page, and if I spent the 319 Australian for the bag, I'd check out and it would effectively cost Michael Kors nothing. But because I came back because I wasn't able to do it and I clicked through here, they're going to pay Google for the privilege of me clicking through that ad. Now just looking through, sometimes the Australia site may be in here, but the other one, exact same backpack, but this is for English for Spain. So we're going to talk about a little later in the video why this happens, but the point is the exact bag I want, two different separate countries, quite honestly in completely other parts of the world, were showing up for this. So let's drag this back out, and this is exactly our problem. Now, if we look at this, it's just not a simple one. This is another example from a website where they were having a problem. We took one of their top selling products. We simply went in to Google Search Console, and as it says here, we use a page level report to put the page in. Now notice this is the EN page. Now in this particular case, this is their global page. This page's purpose is to be the catch-all page for whenever there's not a local market. There's no pricing because they don't know what market this will show up in, and it's designed again to be that filler. And then when you can come there, if you really want, you can click the market selector and go in to the appropriate market. But the point is of this slide here is every one of these markets from India to Indonesia, they have a website for. And the problem is, like in India, it's pretty acute. This is the page that showed up 652,000 times in 1 month and had 4,000 people click, again, to get the page to say, what country would you actually like to go to? They click it and they can go and select India. The point of this is that this page was shown 3.2 million times just to these markets on the screen that already have a web page. And so again, this illustrates the magnitude of this problem. Imagine if the right page was there. Now, this is often a problem because it might say global, it might say the US. So somebody in India who deals with this all the time, or somebody in Australia, as we saw with the Michael Kors example, might deal with this all the time. So they're sensitive to the country that's often in the title of the search result. So if they see this is United or global or United States, they may not click it, and that's why this click rate, despite coming to the page or looking for that specific model. So this helps illustrate exactly, in some cases, the order of magnitude and the challenge of this problem. And so you might ask, how does this happen? Well, there's 3 reasons. Number one, the search engine tries to show the most relevant page. So if you did a model search or any type of branded search, exactly like I did in the case of Michael Kors, I was looking for a specific bag, I searched for the bag, that may not have a language attribute in the query. Now, if I did that in Japanese or I did it in French, it may actually take me maybe to a more appropriate page. But in English or even in Spanish, anywhere where there's duplication of languages and duplications of sites, there's no signal. So in that EN, how does Google know what country that is? And even in a /IN, do they know? So that's the thing. In the absence of any sort of signal, they may not know where to do it. And so a lot of times Google doesn't want 15 of the same English page, or 10 of the same Spanish page. Exactly the same thing. It's just in a different folder indicating it's for a country. So they may drop those out. So in many cases, that's the only page available to be shown. Now, if we break down from a geeky search perspective, this is exactly the analysis that I did in this particular case. And we could see that EN page, so again, the pages were mirror identical, but in the end, we started looking at the other pieces. So how authoritative were they? The EN page had been around for 15 years. It had 220 backlinks to it, some decent authority, trust and citation signals per Majestic. So when we look at it purely from that, without any signal indicating where it's for, it makes sense that that was the page that Google showed us. So this is why Google introduced the HREFLang element. It's essentially a protocol that explicitly states that you have web pages targeting a market. So in this particular case, this IN here, is this India? Could this be Indonesia? Could it be, I don't know, some, acronym for our product category? Google doesn't know, but we can say that, hey, this IN page, or this, which in effect would be a home page, is for India. And so this is exactly what the HREFLang tag is here to do. Another example, DE. So what is DE? So DE foundationally can be language, meaning this is my German language site for anywhere in the world. It could also mean that it's my Germany German page. So DE is one of those ISO codes, which is both a language and a country. So in this case, is it the language? In which case we would show it anywhere in the world. Is it a country? In this case, now it could be DE for Germany, and unlikely, but it could be in English. So those are some of the things. This is why we're trying to take this ambiguity out of this and explicitly say what this page represents. So what language region does it represent? So who needs this? And this is exactly where the problem lies. It's really any company that has multiple country sites, especially those in same or similar languages. Now I say similar because the purists will say, well, and as we know, Spanish is not the same in every market. It's Spanish, it's based on a foundation of Spanish, but there are language nuances. And so that's one of the things. So basically, at the end of the day, if you have an English site and a French site, so a French France site and an American English site, you may not need HREFLang because the two really aren't likely to be confused except for brand queries. That's when we start to see this being a problem. But if you have multiple Arabic sites, English, Spanish, French, German, you can throw Portuguese in there, then you may want to think about using HREFLang, because for every duplication of a language version, you run the risk of these being sort of mistaken. So the next big question, okay, I've got this problem, but will it work for me? How do I solve this? Well, the easy way is just to test it. Test a few pages. So take a couple pages, especially going into Search Console, find where Google maybe has flagged a couple pages as being a problem, or if the market has said, hey, or maybe if you're Michael Kors, you go in and you look at this page that I identified in Australia. And the easiest thing to do is use an HREFLang XML, since it doesn't require any coding. You just got to build the HREFLang XML. Just put 2 or 3 versions on there. As you need to, if you have different top-level domains, so if you happen to have a .co.uk and a .com, you want to make sure both of those are added to Search Console. Submit the XML sitemap or sitemaps into Search Console so Google can pick them up. Monitor which page is ranking before. And this is the kind of test I typically do. I show what's before, like in this particular example, for Australia, the first row. We see here that previously 122 of the pages that were ranking for them for their keywords were actually not from Australia. After HREFLang, that dropped down to just 2. And oftentimes when there's just 2 or 3 like this, it either Google hasn't picked up the matching because it needs them from all sides. So if you have 3 alternate pages, Google has to visit all 3, or it has to pick up all 3 sitemaps or find these 3. A lot of times we'll find, and again, if you watch the issues why HREFLang is complex video, we'll show you a couple examples in there of why you might continue to have errors after fixing this. So this is an example from Jameson. On the left is when they did a query for Jameson Whiskey Hoodie in New York City. Everything was coming up was the international. We can see here at the bottom, €65 for the thing, for the hoodie. That's obviously not something that we're going to purchase from the US. As soon as they did HREFLang within about a week, that was swapped out with the correct page for the US site. Now notice shopjamesonus.com. How is Google going to know that that's a US site versus the shopjamesonwhiskey.com? So HREFLang simply took out any uncertainty about which market it's applicable to. So wrapping up, we tried to address why you might need a HREFLang with some specific examples. What does HREFLang do? It doesn't help you rank any better. It just simply gives Google an explicit signal that you have an alternate page for a language region. We talked about how you can do a test to see if it can improve your performance. And lastly, HREFLang, when used correctly, can generate more revenue. So thank you very much. Check out some of our other videos. If you have any specific questions or anything that was unclear, reach out to me via email, and look forward to having you watch some of our other videos. Thank you.